All right, welcome everybody out to podcast number 359. We got Mr. Montero here with us, Effie Schroeder, and Liam Schroeder. Stay with us.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Hey, Mr. Montero, you want to say hi?
Good morning.
And then Effie and Liam, say hi to everybody.
Howdy. Hello.
That's it? That's all you got?
I hope you're having a good morning.
That's funny. So, Mr. Montero and I were driving on our way to a boot camp this morning, and we were talking yesterday about a topic that dealt with professional development, and I hope the car noises aren't too loud, but we're going to jam out and do this here real quick. When I think about professional development, I'm talking about the developing of how somebody, not who somebody is, but the accentuating and making more alive of who somebody is, and the development of their emotional range and their skills. Is there any other part of the definition you'd like to add? What I'm talking about is not just technical skill development. And I think that David Goggins says all the non-cognitive skills like grit, determination, discipline, accountability, things like that. What would you add?
No, I wouldn't add to the list. I would just make the correlation. We all know that person that has years and years of technical skill, but he doesn't know how to mentor, or he doesn't know how to train, he doesn't know how to pass that information on, or he somehow has just never gotten to that level of management. So he's that genius guy out in the field, but for some reason he hasn't been able to grow. Just making that correlation for, what difference it is that we're talking about.
Yeah, I like that. And the reason that I'm focused on it is kind of in the similar vein, is that we get to train people, and so we'll tell, well, there's the tell thing, but so people, when we take people down a journey, whether it's personal organization or team balance and health or keeping a field book or whatever, being disciplined with the procurement log, everybody knows what they should be doing for the most part. It's very infrequently that Brandon and I run across people that don't know the intellectual what. In the book Switch, there's 3 parts to change. One is directing the intellect of a human being, motivating their wants and desires, and then 3rd, shaping the path and making it easy for them. A lot of times people know what to do and they have a clear path. The issue or the opportunity there is motivating their desires. And that's what I want to talk about today. I was writing the section in Elevated Construction Senior Superintendents about desire. And I remember this little saying or phrase that, to every man is given according to his desires, whether he chooses good or bad, life or death, joy or remorse of conscience. And really that's what I feel about it, Brandon, is that for the folks that know what to do but aren't doing it, it really comes down to desire. Like to be really bold about it, if a superintendent, if on a superintendent's job or a project manager's job or a PX's job, it's dirty, like that's because that's where their set point is. That's what they desire. They have low expectations. If their project is behind schedule, it's a lot less to do with technical skills and circumstance and more with that's their mental set point. That's where their expectations are. That's where their desires are. Or if they're not keeping a to-do list, or if they're not filling out a field book, or they're not studying the drawings, or there's so many people that come up and say, well, can you just teach more technical skills? And they ignore the personal part of it. But it really comes down to desire. That's their set point. That's what they've come to expect, right? And I'm on one about this because I'll hear from people, no, just technical. We don't need to teach anything other than that. And I think that's because they're more thinking-based people But I would say you tell me, Brandon, what it actually is, but I think it's 0% technical skills and 100% professional development, desire skills, or elevating somebody's set point, or getting them to expect more. That's the problem. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I'll use the example of I'm not a mechanic and I don't have a lot of skill in that direction, but I can go find a YouTube video that will show me how to switch out a particular filter on my car. Whether I believe that I can do that or not, or whether I believe that I can figure it out when I open up the hood and look in there and there's all these different parts. That's another story. The technical information is pretty widely available out there in the world. But whether or not you have that belief or you're telling yourself the story, I can be successful at this, and so I'm going to do it, is kind of a different story. So along with that drive or that desire, I would even add, do you have the belief that you can be successful in a certain way? Or do you have a belief that your job could be really enjoyable and could be satisfying to you? And if you had that belief, what would you back it up with from an action standpoint or a desire standpoint?
Because we can figure anything out. There's nobody out there that doesn't, in the construction industry, that doesn't know about lean or scheduling or finishing projects on time or installing it right the first time, or achieving flow. These aren't new things. Like everybody knows they should do that. So how do we go get that passion, that desire, that grind, like Eric Thomas is talking about? And I think it's raising our mental set point. I was writing in the book, there's a couple of things that I do and I'd like to know what you do to elevate my desires. Obviously there's the moral and ethical standpoint, the moral and ethical foundation that I get from church and religion. There's professional development that we get from Rapport or Tony Robbins or some of these leadership trainings, right? There's reading books that elevate my desires and give me a mental set point that's higher. There's just a lot of things like that we need to do. Getting a mentor is one of them. If I see somebody or I have a role model that's always asking me to be better, that's elevating my set point. And I think that I'm just not the point that I want to make. And it's a little bit forward, and it might even be offensive, is that if a job is dirty, it's not circumstance. That's how that super and PM think. If the job's unsafe, it's not circumstance. That's what's in that PM or super's mind. If a business is disorganized with bad financial records or a lack of control and chaos, that's what's in the business owner's mind. Yeah. Right? Everything outside is a physical manifestation of the inner mental condition of the human being. And so what is our challenge? Our challenge isn't, hey, you should go clean the site, or you should go organize your business, or hey, you should be safer. They already know that. How do we get them to want to do it and to get the discipline and the grind and the determination to get there? So what are some of the things that you've seen that move human beings in that direction?
One of the things that I feel is a really big concept, and it is part of what I felt that my takeaway was from Rapport leadership. Belief in self is huge. And the reason that I would say that is, what do you think that you deserve as yourself? Do you deserve to work for an employer who treats people well? Then are you part of that wheel? If you weren't, can you seek other employment at a place that more closely matches your set of goals and ethics? If you feel that you deserve to work on a clean job, then would you take part in cleaning it up yourself? Would you take part in motivating others? If you were a super or a PM and you felt like, oh, if this job represents me, it's going to have this particular look or feel to it,
Yes.
then you're going to follow through on that because you deserve to work on that job and you deserve that it will represent you. If you have that system of beliefs, there's going to be something that comes along to back it up, and that's going to come out of the work of your own hands. If you don't have that belief, if you just think things will turn out how they will, the job will, run you over to some extent, so you're not really directing it. That's a belief about your ability. That's a belief about, how much what you put into place will actually stick with other people. And I would say it's a negative belief. If you think that things will just run you over and turn out as they will, that's probably what's going on in your life in general. And that's probably a component of what's there in your mind at all times.
I love that. And yeah. And when we have a disconnect, do we say, oh, I'm not holding the line or holding people accountable on my job and setting high expectations. I need more technical skills. Like, that's silly. Okay. You're not dealing with other human beings. This is an interpersonal problem. This is a professional development, motivation, set point, expectations. I love that you make the point that, would you want to put your name on that project? Because ultimately, whatever that project is, that is you. If you're the leader, you're the super, you're the PM. And actually, I'm not going to sympathy about the rest of you either. So if you're as an assistant super or a field engineer or a foreman or the director or anybody, and you're like, wow, like the job's not going well, it's a bunch of circumstances. First of all, you have to stop believing that. With a lowercase g, you are the God of this world. You are the God of that world. You control everything. If you're the general contractor, and even if you're a trade partner, you can affect a ton. And so we have to get our minds wrapped around the fact that you got to own that. And then the other thing that I would say, Brandon, is and I want everybody to hear me on this. You're getting out of school, you're transitioning from being a foreman to being a field engineer or an assistant super or wherever you are. The worst thing you can do is to go be a part of a bad project. So you've got two choices and two choices only. You change that project to be successful, or you go somewhere else. You cannot stay on a bad project and not end up with a certain amount of learned hopelessness. Meaning people get out of school, they're on a barn burner, then they're on another barn burner, and then another barn burner, and then finally they just get used to things like that's how it is. That's what that shapes their desires. It shapes their set point. It shapes their expectations. I mean, you and I, Brandon, have seen people that have been on barn burner, and to attempt to program that out of that is possible, but it's difficult. Wouldn't you agree? Like the people that you get used to excellence, it's also similarly as difficult to get the people that are used to excellent jobs to accept substandard projects. Because that shapes their desires. Any thoughts on that? Because we'll close down here in a minute or two.
Yeah, I definitely would say, we're talking about ending up on these type of projects or being a part of a certain type of project. But again, this isn't that the project was wonderful when you got there and it's, wonderful without you. It's what is it that you're bringing to it individually. So I would go back to, we talked about like emotional range or something. Oh, well, I don't have the skill to make this project run smoothly yet. Well, what is the skill set then? Is it maybe you need to be able to deliver more direct, clear feedback? Maybe you need to be able to hold authority in a way that's more impactful. Maybe you need to have more compassion or listening skills when you're dealing with trade partners because they haven't bought into your plan and you're unaware of that fact. So I would just say there are a lot of soft skills that can be added to what a person is according to their desire. And that to me is a really big point. I feel like a lot of people have the view that whatever set of, professional skills, or I'll even use the word emotional skills, they show up with is all they have. Oh, he's just like that. I'm just like that. I'm impatient. I'm this and that. And I would say, just like a technical skill that you have the desire to learn and you take the time to go learn it, you can grab onto these professional skills if it's what you want for yourself, if it's part of your desire. You can grab those skills, change the way that you manage, change the way that you lead, and then change the outcome of the projects and teams that you're leading.
Yeah, I really love that. I think that's a good spot. And one thing that came to my mind as we were going through this is desire finds the technical skill. The technical skill doesn't find the desire. Meaning you start with setting your expectations, and then somebody with the desire to get better will go find those technical skills. Somebody that desires to get better will go find the information. Somebody that desires to get better will go YouTube the information, whatever they need to do to get it done, and they'll grind. And so we'll go ahead and close this out. Our challenge is don't settle for less. Don't ignore the human side of it. If you have a problem, we need to raise our set point. And remember, it is given to him according to his desires, whether he desires life or death, good or evil, joy or remorse of conscience. And the same thing will happen. You can either live a remarkable life or a horrible, like learned hopelessness kind of a life, depending on what your desires are, your mental set point, and your expectations. What do you think about that, Effie and Liam? You guys jamming with this?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So let's all say it all at the same time. On the count of 3, on we go. 1, 2, 3, on we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.